Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Sachin Karnik here. Good to see all of you online as well as people who may be listening later on. Today is the 13th of February. 13th of December 2025. I want to welcome you all to Angel Wings monthly retreat. Today's subject, you'll see this on the screen in just a second here. We're going to look at the connection between various concepts in terms of the physical body, biological ideas, and the TEMD model. So the TEMD model is what we have been examining in detail in the personal transformation program. So today's retreat is going to correspond with that, to go a bit further, and I'm going to go through it carefully, step by step. If there are any comments, questions, anything that needs further clarification, please just interrupt and kind of go into it. We'll be taking a break around 10:30 or so, 10:30, 10:45, something like that, and then we'll do the second part of the presentation and then the conversation workshop until about 12 o'clock. So today's retreat will go straight until 12 o'clock with a break in between. So first of all, you can see it on the screen here, that systems biology, what is this? Systems biology is an integrative scientific framework that studies living organisms as dynamic, interactive networks rather than isolated components. We're going to go through this line by line, make sure it's all clear so that there's no confusion at all, and it can be, I think, fairly easily understood. So first of all, when we look at ourselves, we are a system. So there is this area in biology called systems biology that tries to understand living beings as highly integrated phenomena. The systems biology approach is an integrated scientific framework that studies living organisms, all living organisms, including us, as dynamic, interactive networks. Let's be clear about this point. I'll highlight it here for you. So this is the sentence we're looking at right now. Let's go back here for a moment. Let's make that a little bit bigger so you can see that. It's very interesting. Are we an organism? Yes. Are we living? Yes, obviously. Are we a dynamic network? Yes. That is exactly what we are. We are not a static phenomena, we are dynamic. So our entire physical body, psychological self, everything is a dynamic, interactive network and a series of networks rather than isolated components. Every component of the body is related to all the other components in some way or the other. Right, so systems biology, it studies the interlinkages, the interconnectedness within the biological systems. And what that does for us in Angel Wing, it provides us with what's called a foundational epistemology. Now, this term here, foundational epistemology, what that means simply is that it gives us the ability to understand this dynamic interconnected network in a very systematic way. It's a theory of knowledge. We have better understanding of what's really going on. Epistemology is a study of knowledge. Ontology is a study of being. Right? So the TEMD model, thought, emotion, memory, desire, energy, hopefully you've written that all 5 down. This model aligns perfectly with systems biology. So it aligns precisely with the TMD models, and the model rejects, the model we have developed in Angel Wing, it rejects linear reductionistic causality. I know these are sometimes tricky words. I'll explain them all. If you want me to explain it further, I'll be happy to. Linear causality means that just one A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D, like that. It's a linear causality. There is truth in that, but it's not completely accurate. Linear causality is too simplistic. It's like saying blood pressure has only one cause, or high blood pressure. There are multiple causes. Also, what is called reductionistic causality, just to reduce the difficulty that someone may be having. Maybe it's an emotional problem, maybe it's a biological problem, maybe it's a physical problem. To reduce it just to chemicals or just to a molecular phenomena. This is called reductionism, to reduce it down to molecule level, atomic level. So in the TEMD model, we are talking about thoughts and emotions, memories, desires, energies, quite a bit of psychological, energetic phenomena that does not necessarily have a linear causal track. It's multi-causal, it's multi-dimensional. And it's certainly not like super reductionistic, just reduce everything down to molecular level within the brain, within the body, and that explains it all. No. Right? So what we have done, and then this is a little bit further in our retreats. In our retreats, we go a bit deeper in ideas to better conceptualize angel wings, foundational notions. So systems biology and the TEMD model hang together beautifully. This is our first point today. The second point is the second line. By emphasizing emergence, systems biology establishes that physiological and psychological functions such as cognition, emotion, metabolism, and immunity are not localized events but network level phenomena. So let's look at that sentence. Give me just a moment to highlight that for you. Yes, it's very interesting. There it is. Okay. Let's change the color of that so you can see that one. Right, so emergence is another concept in philosophy, which means that there are properties of the brain, the mind, the senses, etc. They have properties, but there are emergent properties that cannot be predicted from the individual components alone. So brain functions in a particular way. The chemicals function in a particular way. They change in different ways. That's fine. We understand that, to some extent at least. But the concept of emergence is that our experiences, our feelings, our emotions, our memories, our ideas, our free will, all of that is an emergent property or series of emergent properties that cannot be predicted or fully explained by just neurons in the brain, individual components alone. Therefore, by emphasizing emergence, systems biology establishes that physiological and psychological functions, understand that means, right? Physiological is the physical body function. For physiology means function. And psychological functions of the mind. Systems biology establishes that physiological and psychological functions such as cognition, emotion, metabolism, immunity, these are functions that are both physiological and psychological, are not localized events, but network level phenomena. See, this is for us to realize, for ourselves in our transformative journey, and then from a more intellectual research point of view, and then to probe into this based on the participants online, where you want to go with this. We can take it in many different directions. That's the purpose of a retreat. It's not just a presentation. The purpose is to dive into questions and queries and examine different ideas in many different ways. Right. So our experiences of life, cognition, emotion, metabolism, immunity, etc., are not localized events but network level phenomena. Network level means that it is interacting at a massive level in a massive network of beings, human beings, people, animals, trees, the world outside. It's all a massive network. Okay, so the TEMD similarly treats thought, emotion, memory, desire, and energy not as discrete psychological variables, but as interdependent functional dimensions of a single self-organizing system of consciousness. I know it's a heavy language. All the language is pretty heavy here. So I'm going to break it down because that'll help us to better understand this. All right, it's very interesting. The TEMD model, it basically states it basically states that there are many psychological variables. We have them. We go through them all the time. We've gone through them. We continue to go through them, and we will continue to go through them. But they are interdependent functional dimensions. Functional dimension means what? For example, Sachin has my family, my mother, my brother, my other people, my friends. I have an interactional, functional dimension with them. Okay, that makes sense. So it's interdependent. My experience of who I am, my experience of the body itself, and the way the body functions, the way thoughts and emotions, memories, desires, energy, how they all function, they function as interdependent dimensions of a single self-organized system of consciousness. I have consciousness, I feel conscious myself, so it's all organized together. So this is the third point. So the third point after emergence is that we as human beings, as well as all other living beings, are a single self-organized system of consciousness. A profound statement, profound idea. It may sound very profound, and it is, but this is our life. If we want to reach self-mastery, we want to explain self-mastery and personal transformation in many different ways. And today is a little bit more advanced, perhaps, but not easy, not difficult to understand. If you go slow with it, it's very easy, I think, to grasp. Some of the language may be a little dense, but we'll break it down. Nothing to worry about. Because we need that level of language to accurately talk about what we're talking about. That's the reason why. That's why I've selected language at this level. Right? So these are variables. And we are not just having discrete psychological variables. What would be an example of a discrete psychological variable? So, for example, if I say I have a very loving relationship with my mother, I can say that, and I might even, some researcher might say, well, that's a discrete phenomena. Discrete means like it's hanging by itself without connection to other things. No, that's not true. The TEMDE looks at life not as discrete psychological variables, because there are none actually. In my humble opinion, there are no discrete psychological variables, but they are interdependent functional dimensions, exactly the way it is written here, interdependent functional dimensions of a single self-organizing system of consciousness. We are constantly, we and all other beings are constantly trying to organize ourselves, self-organizing capacity. And it's trying to do so. Right? So that's the third point. Now the fourth point is the next line. A central principle of systems biology is the operation of feedback loops. Alright, so what are feedback loops? Recursive causal circuits in which system outputs re-enter as inputs. This happens all the time in all 12 dimensions of life. We put something out there, we put energy and thought and feeling out there towards people, and then we get something in back from that. There's an effect there. So what we put out in the system, it comes back again as an input. This is called feedback loop. So these are called recursive causal circuits in which system outputs re-enter as inputs. They're repetitive loops. It happens like in relationships. We have the same conversation again and again. We put some ideas out there and it comes right back on us. Whatever we put out there comes back on it. It just goes back like this, back and forth, back and forth. These are called feedback loops. So there are many feedback loops biologically, right? But anyway, in systems biology, there is this central notion that there are feedback loops, and what do they produce? They produce non-linearity. I know these words are dense. I hope you're writing them down, and then if you write it down, then it'll be good actually. So, non-linearity. What does that mean? It means disproportionate and context-dependent relationships between cause and effect. There's a cause and effect. Sachin has a conversation with a friend. That's a cause, let's say. It's dependent on the context of the conversation. There's an effect of that conversation. Maybe the person didn't like what I have to say. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. They made some other comments. There's a cause-effect relationship continuously going on in our life. With family, with co-workers, with bosses, with children, with food items, with TV shows, with clothing items, with everything. It's absolutely everything. Parents, you name it. So the feedback loops produce non-linearity. And that's very interesting to understand that point. It's non-linear because of the fact that it's not black and white. It's not just, A leads to B and B leads to C. It's not that simple. Because they are disproportionate. The proportion is not the same. What we get back many times is not proportionate to what we put out there. It happens in relationships, for example. Someone has put a lot of time in a relationship, but they're not getting anything back, or getting very little back, or getting back what is a lot of distortion. So this is an example of non-linearity. It happens with children and parents. As a mother or as a father, you put in a lot of time with your kids. They raise them, love them, and then they grow up and they don't want to have anything to do with you. They just call you on Mother's Day, send you a card, or Father's Day, and they don't want the parents to interfere in their life. So the experience is disproportional to what was put inside there. But that's the way it goes. That's the way life goes. We cannot expect always a proportional response. Hence feedback loops, which are many, which we put out and then we get back. We put out, we put back. They are non-linear, or they produce non-linearity of experience. You could do a dissertation on just these three ideas only. It's so amazing, actually. Now, the next point. This entire discussion so far, and if you have questions or comments, please ask about it, because I don't want to go too fast. I want to make sure the couple of people that are online, you have opportunity to make comments, ask questions, any concept that is not clear. Then we can go into some dialogue about it. We can talk about it. It's not about my covering just material. Yeah, I do want to cover some material, but I can do that on my own, make a recording out of it. That's not the purpose of the retreat. That's not the main purpose. The main purpose is for discussion and for conversation, is for probing, for really understanding, and then really seeing what it means, and then maybe how it can be applied, things like that, right? So that's why we have these retreats. It's very, very interesting, and it's also very accurate. Now, this concept of feedback loops and non-linearity, this directly corresponds to the TEMD architecture. And this is what we're going to be focusing on in the PTP program next year. We could start pretty soon, in the next month. After the New Year, the first Tuesday of the month will be year number 3. And we'll be going deep into the TEMDE to open the door into self-mastery. That's the whole year is going to be spent on that. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating to understand, because we expect proportional responses. I did this much, somebody should do that much for me. And guess what? Life never works like that. Hardly ever. Sometimes it may, but not very often it doesn't. Right? So feedback loops produce non-linearity, and now this concept corresponds to the TEMD architecture, wherein thoughts alter emotions. We know how thoughts impact emotions. Emotions reshape memory encoding. How memories are formed a lot of it has to do with the way our emotions work. Memory conditions desires. The desires we have, the instincts we have, wants we have, is based on our memory. And desires redirects energy. Energy is always directed. So you can see how feedback loops are present in the TEMD itself. Feedback loops are present in the TEMD itself because our thoughts alter emotions. Now, emotions also alter thoughts. It goes the other way too. Emotion reshapes memory. Memory conditions desire, and desire redirects energy. Obviously, without desire, motivation, our energies cannot go in any direction. So, which then feeds back to influence cognition and affective tone. So it all comes back inside to feedback. What am I going to think about? How am I going? All this interlinks together, and my affective tone, meaning my emotional tone, is changed by this. It is changed by life's experiences, changed by my thinking, by who I'm talking to, what am I doing, or my actions that I'm taking. So these recursive interactions generate what are called homeodynamics. It's a technical word, probably you may never have heard that before. Homeodynamics refers to dynamic stability maintained through continuous adaptive change rather than fixed equilibrium. So dynamic stability is the key. We are dynamic, we're changing. There are changes going on throughout the whole day, throughout the whole week. But there needs to be stability. It's called homeodynamics because the word homeo comes from homeostasis. So homeodynamics is the dynamic stability maintained through continuous adaptive change. Changes are adaptive. They keep changing. They're continuous. Rather than a fixed equilibrium. It's not like, okay, my life is just in equilibrium. Yeah, it needs to be in equilibrium, but it's not a fixed equilibrium. Equilibrium is not fixed. As much as we talk about equilibrium, there should not be a misunderstanding. There's a difference between dynamic stability and fixed equilibrium. It's fascinating. And this is called homeodynamics. Right? So homeodynamics is that extraordinary stability through continuous adaptive change. Changes are always going on. Are we adaptive? Or can we adapt to the changes? Then that is called dynamic stability. Our stability remains in a dynamic way. It's not fixed equilibrium. Okay, so now this notion mirrors the TEMD's view that psychological health and personal core energy are sustained through ongoing regulation rather than static balance. I can say that I want the TEMDE to be balanced. Yes, but the balance is not static. Balance is not static. It is 100% dynamic, and it is sustained, meaning psychological health and then the personal core energy harnessing that we have talked about before. We'll talk more about it later. Both psychological health and core energy harnessing or core energy existence in a good range, it is sustained through ongoing regulation. It's ongoing regulation. There are changes that need to be made through hour to hour to hour to regulate the body, the mind, the senses, etc. I cannot just be sitting here for 5 hours in a chair. I have to move my body. I have to do other things. I have to talk to people, go outside, whatever. There's changes that have to happen. And if I don't make those changes, then I could get stuck in a static state, which is not really a balanced state. It sounds like it's a balanced state, but it's not. A true balanced state is always dynamic. Okay, it's not a healthy balanced state at least. Okay, are there any comments that anybody has? We just have a couple of people online. I'm happy to go on with this, but I just want to make sure to give everyone an opportunity to make some comments, because these ideas are a bit advanced. I mean, some of the language is a little bit, some of the terms you may not have heard before. And so we don't want to create any confusion. We want to make sure that the concepts are very clear, that they are applicable, that they are understood, and that we can move with them as we move ahead. Okay. Are there any comments? Yeah, go ahead, Sucheta. Yes. Okay, now let's go further. If these points are clear, we're going to go further here in the next paragraph. Systems biology further recognizes that biological regulation depends on multi-scale coordination. Now we know this, obviously, right? There's the molecular level, cellular level, organ level, and the organism level, or organismic level, organismic processes. We have molecules, molecules are at one level, then that goes into cellular level. There are different cells, epithelial cells and stomach cells and heart cells and all that kind of stuff. So many different cells. Those cells make up organs in the body, and then the whole organism. So systems biology recognizes that biological regulation of the body, because we all have a body, it depends on multi-scale coordination. The molecules, and then the molecules function at one level, but then they also come together to form cells that they function at another level. That's the most interesting point. Multi-scale coordination. Isn't that so? If we just had a lot of molecules, but they weren't organized properly to form cells and whatnot, then the cellular properties, which are emergent properties, they would not be known. I mean, they wouldn't be available, but they are. Like, for example, I'm Sachin, I'm sitting here, I see myself, this body, I feel this is me. Where does that all come from? From this multi-scale coordination point of view, it comes from the molecular, cellular, organ level, and then in the organism. If you don't take out all the organs from a person's body, what's left? Is there a person even there? Maybe something like Chaitanyam or Atman or spiritual concepts, those things may be there. But the person is gone. There's no person. So this is why the biological regulation, meaning the regulation of the body, which has to be there, the good quality biological regulation, it depends on multi-scale coordination. It depends on that multi-scale coordination because the organs need to work together at their level, so that the cells need to work together at their level. This is called multi-scale coordination. Now, in the TEMD terms, this corresponds to vertical and horizontal integration across mental, emotional, mnemonic, motivational, and energy layers of experience. So the TMD model corresponds to systems biology. Our topic here today is to show the parallels between systems biology and the TEMD model. That's the goal here. So let's see how far we get with it. This is quite extensive. It's amazing. So in TEMD terms, this multi-scale coordination corresponds to vertical and horizontal integration across multiple domains: mental, emotional, mnemonic, motivational, energetic layers of experience. So vertical integration and horizontal integration. Vertical integration, in my perspective at least, is that the energy is moving upward. If energies are moving upward, this is vertical integration. Horizontal integration is where the 12 dimensions of life are getting that energy that is flowing vertically. This is my interpretation. There might be some others. It's a very powerful idea. Vertical and horizontal integration across mental, emotional, mnemonic, motivational, and energetic layers of experience. So, for example, emotional states. Emotional states are defined as affectively charged physiologic cognitive patterns. So, for example, emotional states modulate endocrine signaling, which in turn influence cognitive processing. You see the link there. The kind of emotions we have, they modulate the way the endocrine glands work. Hormonal endocrine signaling is what? Hormonal communication governing metabolism, stress, and growth. Right? So if we want our body to be healthier, we need to understand this link here. That my emotions of different kinds are impacting the way the endocrine glands work. They modulate, in fact, endocrine signaling. It's amazing. See, this is the vertical and the horizontal integration. Because systems biology and the TEMD model, they are together. TEMD is the inner world. Systems biology is looking at the physical body mostly, and then the connections thereof. And they are intersecting all the time. So for example, so emotional states, and by the way, what's the definition of an emotional state? Brief definition is affectively charged physiologic cognitive patterns. They're charged affectively. Emotions are charged. There's energy charge inside of them. That's another necessary thing to really grasp, that the charge inside emotions, to recognize that is not a restriction of the emotion. To recognize that the emotions have charges, it is a way to recognize that there is an impact on the physiology of the body. Every emotion has impact on the physiology of this body. And that's what awareness is all about, real awareness. And from J. Krishnamurti's point of view, he used this beautiful expression, choiceless awareness. And that was his whole teaching primarily. Is Sachin aware of how my emotions are impacting endocrine signaling? And they are. There's a lot of research that shows that that's the case. And what is endocrine signaling? These are hormonal communication. Because endocrine glands produce hormones, pituitary glands, etc., right? There's various glands that produce these hormones. Hormones are what? They communicate. They send signals. So hormonal communication that governs metabolism, stress, and growth. You see, so see these 3 points. In a simpler language, every emotion Sachin experiences, you experience, every emotion we experience directly impacts metabolism. The reactions going on to break down the nutrients and then to give us energy from that. That's called metabolism. That's amazing. To recognize that, to be aware of that. Emotional states impact hormonal communication regarding stress. How much stress we feel is based, to at least a large extent, on the way the hormones are functioning. We don't experience stress like that without hormones. And the hormones don't get secreted without certain emotional states. So we have responsibility to manage the energy within emotions. This was the whole point. You've heard me talk about this before. And we're going to talk, like I said, much in more detail. But this is the whole point, that multi-scale coordination, which is what systems biology talks about, all these different layers, molecular layer and cellular. First-year biology students know this. So this is not anything difficult. We understand that. But just as there's multi-scale coordination, the TEMD also has vertical and horizontal integration. Vertical integration has to be there because the thoughts and emotions, memory, desires, they all need to be pulled together. They are together. The moment they start splitting apart, there's a lot of trouble there. And it's horizontal integration. So both vertical and horizontal across mental layers of experience, emotional layers of experience, memory related, meaning mnemonic layers of experience, motivational, meaning desire layers of experience, and energetic layers of experience. So you've got the five layers of experience we have. Our thinking, this is our cognition, mental thinking layer of experience. Number one. Lot of examples. Emotional layers. Again, we all know. We don't even need examples. We already know what emotions we experience in our day-to-day life, and the rest of humanity also. This is called the emotional layer of experience. The third is mnemonic, or that is related to memory, recall. What my memories were, how am I recalling them? All of that. It's a very big subject. Huge thing. You could spend years studying it. But for our purposes, we know we have memories. We know that we need to integrate it. It's called horizontal and vertical integration. Vertical meaning the TEMD all integrate together. This is through core energy. This is called vertical alignment, vertical integration. Horizontal integration is where every area of Sachin's life, whether it's family and food and exercise and diet and this and that and, angel wing programs and whatever I'm doing in my life, all of those areas surrounding me or areas that I'm involved in, the roles I'm playing, the activity I'm doing, whatever it is that I'm doing, what is that? That is horizontal integration. That is horizontal integration. Right? So now you can see here the linkages. So the mental layer of experience, meaning thoughts. Do we have thoughts of different kinds? Yes, of course. That's a layer. That's one layer. Emotional layer of experience. Now the thoughts and emotions need to be integrated. So that's the multi-scale coordination. Multi-scale coordination means that in the next hour, we talked about this before, in the next hour, how can I make it to the best of my ability? I can not waste energy, not waste time, not ruminate too much, all that kind of stuff, right? What am I really doing? I'm integrating at multiple levels, meaning affective and cognitive level. I'm bringing them together, not wasting energy within them. This is called a horizontal and vertical integration. It's very powerful, right? So the emotional state, because look, emotional state means that an emotion is in a state of existence, and it is creating also the first person state of experience. That is called emotional state. If I say that I'm feeling very, very joyful, is that an emotion? Yes. Is the emotion joy? Yes. So then when we say a joyful state of emotion, what does that mean? That means our entire mental framework is aligned in such a way to produce that joy. That's called an emotional state. Emotional states don't happen by themselves. As we were saying before, they happen in a non-linear manner. They also need to happen with regards to hemodynamics. Excuse me, not hemodynamics, homeodynamics. That I can experience joy, which is adaptive, but that joy is not a fixed equilibrium. People think that I should just be in joy all the time. Yes, you can be, but there's a baseline joy. But it's not a fixed, because it's dynamic. The emotions are going to be dynamic. They shift in different ways, but they can be adaptive. There can be dynamic stability. There can be dynamic stability of joy, rather than a continuous or just a fixed equilibrium of joy, which would be a static joy, which would not have much flavor ultimately. It would just be boring. It would just it would lose its flavor essentially. These are amazing points. I've been wanting to do this year sometime, and finally we got a chance to do it today. Again, please remember, homeodynamics refers to dynamic stability maintained through continuous adaptive change. There's always adaptive change going on throughout. The emotions are adaptive, thoughts are adaptive. This continuous adaptive change is what creates the vertical and horizontal integration. I hope it makes sense. Fascinating. Homeodynamics. Because see, we have this false notion of fixed equilibrium. I can just be in my equilibrium state, in a fixed state, and never move out of that. But that's a wrong concept. That doesn't happen. If you try to make that happen, it won't happen, because you will not be able to live life. It's not fixed equilibrium. It is dynamic stability instead. And that's the eye on the prize. We want to be in a sustained state of dynamic stability, not a sustained state of fixed equilibrium. You can never even be in a sustained state of fixed equilibrium. Our life experiences don't allow that. Our emotions, feelings, and memories, but no, it will not work. It doesn't happen that way. It's worthy of a lot of contemplation. It's really quite extraordinary. So the vertical and horizontal integration across mental, emotional, mnemonic, motivational, energetic layers. Now see, this is another point. Layers of experience. Each one of the 5 is a layer of experience. Because life is experience. Any emotion, for example, any emotion is an experience. Any thought is an experience. Every thought is an experience. Every memory recall, mnemonic layer is an experience. The memory's content is held in experience. Energy flow itself is experience. Right? So emotional states, for example, they modulate endocrine signaling. Metabolism, stress, growth, these things are modulated by the endocrine system, which in turn influences cognitive processing. Now you see the link there. The emotion directly impacts thoughts, cognition, cognitive processing. The T-E. The E impacts the T. That's what this is saying. That's what we're reading there. So cognitive processing refers to what? Organized patterns of perception, appraisal, and meaning making. What does that mean? Our experiences have to be organized for perception, hearing, etc. That is one level. We appraise, we make judgments, which we need to, about what's good for me, what's not good for me, what I like this, I don't like that, all that kind of stuff. There's judgments. It's called appraisal. We appraise the experience itself based on context, based on where we are, what we need to do. There's a functional level of all of this. See, this is the reason why our morning satsang program picks up where all of this leaves off, where all of this borders off. That's where the morning satsang program begins. Hopefully you can see the linkage there. All of this is the background for the Gita, the Upanishads, and scriptures and whatnot. This is the actual backdrop for that. It's quite amazing. Now see, what is cognitive processing? Organized patterns of perception, meaning perception is going on and then they are organized within. Appraisal, patterns of appraisal. I have relationships with 3 or 4 other good friends, let's say. I'm constantly appraising the relationship, thinking about them, this and that. This is called appraisal. And meaning making. I make meaning out of it, meaningful experience. Right now we just went on a trip for a couple of days to Ocean City, and it was a very nice experience. So what is the meaning of the experience? What is the significance of it? What is the joy of it? What is the memory of it? All of that is together. I can process it, think about it, remember it. This is called cognitive processing. So the TEMDE formalizes this interaction by identifying emotion as a primary modulator of energetic coherence and desire as the directional force that determines whether such modulation becomes regenerative or depletive. I'll explain this. It's a very powerful line. Please be very attentive to this line if you can. Out of the TEMDE, emotion and desire are extremely potent. Why? Because emotion is a primary modulator of energetic coherence. If our emotions are really hanging together properly, that hanging together, that coming together will modulate or will bring about energetic coherence across the TEMD system, which is our entire inner world. The imbalances will be obliterated by focusing by recognizing how emotions work and how they modulate emotional coherence or lack of coherence, for that matter. The word modulation would mean, in a more positive sense, it really means that it is a function to bring about energetic coherence. But if there is lack of modulation, then there will be lack of energetic coherence. hope this is making sense. Now, the other very potent and powerful out of the 5, the TEMDE, is desire. Desire as a directional force that determines whether such modulation, which modulation are we talking about? The energetic coherence modulation through the emotions. And then, because if the emotions can bring about energetic coherence, thoughts are already in that. Thoughts are already going to be in a state of coherence. Don't have to worry about it too much. It's quite interesting. So emotion is a primary modulator of energetic coherence, and desire as the directional force. Isn't it so? I want this, I want that, I want that. It goes in a direction. And that goes to the quantity, quality, direction, dimension, depth, and structure. The 5, 6, 5, 3 that we talk about always. So there's a direction of desire. The desire as the directional force that determines whether such modulation, the modulation of the emotions, the coming together of the emotions, or the way that the emotions are hanging together, whether such modulation, because modulation is experience, emotional experience, becomes regenerative or depletive. Modulation can be go in either direction. That was my thought also. It can be regenerative. My emotions can regenerate in very positive, healthy ways. It can also deplete energy very, very quickly. Right? So emotion and desire both are involved in this. Now, from an energetic perspective, systems biology implicitly affirms that information flow is inseparable from energy flow. And that's a powerful idea. Energy is flowing through my body. Right now, Sachin is speaking, energy is flowing. We'll be lying down a bit, walking, doing this, doing whatever we'll be doing. It's going to go on. The whole day will go on. So energy flow is going on, but information is also flowing. What is this? Information flow is inseparable from energy flow means it's the principle that signaling, regulation, and organization require energetic investment and coherence. That should be self-evident. Energetic investment has to be there for the right kind of information to move through the entire biological system. It has to be there. It cannot move without energy. So the principle that signaling, signals given from the brain to the body, from the endocrine system to other systems, there's signals that are going back and forth continuously. So this is a principle that information flow is inseparable from energy flow. It's happening simultaneously and it's happening at the same time. It's happening together. That's what simultaneous means. So this is a principle in systems biology. In systems biology, this is a key principle that states that signaling, regulation, and organization require energetic investment and coherence. If we want our body to be healthy and functioning well and all of that, we already know we have to get our mind on track. Everybody knows that. But what we also have to recognize is that the information that is flowing through the body is based on our mind to a large extent, based on food reactions, other things, and find out what's actually happening there so that the energetic coherence can actually open up. But it's inseparable. So biological coherence depends on synchronization, timing, and resonance. So 3 points. Why is that? Why is biological physical coherence based on synchronization? Look at the definition of synchronization. Temporal alignment of oscillating processes. Everything is oscillating. At some point in the morning we feel very hungry, then we've had food, then we are okay, then we feel hungry again. It just goes on. It just goes on. So for the temporal processing is so powerful, because as synchronicity is what the biological system wants. The biological system doesn't want lack of synchronicity. The biological system is based on homeostasis. Biological system is based on homeostasis. So it always is trying to find a synchronous state. So biological coherence depends on synchronization, which is temporal alignment of oscillating processes. There's so many other oscillating processes going on in the emotion level, thought level, brain level. So much oscillation is going on. We could spend a lot of time on that, but we don't have time to spend an hour on that. So in brief, we can just understand there's changes going on that are swinging back and forth. Sometimes we feel very hungry, then we feel very full, and things like that. These are oscillating processes. So biological coherence, to be in a state of coherence biologically, depends on synchronization. It also depends on timing, that phase-sensitive coordination of system activity. Timing is everything, right? Like when we take medications at a particular time, or we have breakfast at a particular time, because it is phase-sensitive coordination of system activity. What phase am I in now? Then I have to align my actions with the phase that I'm in now. That's a timing component. So that timing component is connected to biological coherence, because that is part of biological coherence. And biological coherence itself is a multi-scale coordination. We go back to all these points here, and you can see how it all intersects together. You see? Amazing. Quite powerful. Now, resonance is the third component for biological coherence. Resonance is mutual amplification between coupled subsystems. There's many subsystems. Like the endocrine system is connected to other systems. One system has many subsystems. So mutual amplification between coupled subsystems, like for example, take the heart. You've got blood flow going through the heart, but you also have nutrients going through the heart. You also have heart muscle being nourished. There's multiple subsystems at work there for the heart to function normally. And those subsystems, once they are in sync with each other, where they're mutually amplified, mutual amplification between coupled subsystems, they're already working together, but they're amplified, that they're working very well together. For the heart, for the kidney, for the lungs, for whatnot. When that is called resonance. That is called resonance. So you've got three points here: synchronization, timing, and resonance. These three are foundational to build biological coherence. Another way to put that, when we get these three in sync, when they are coming together in the best possible way, we have the healthiest life, the best quality life, the better quality experiences of life. Because the biological mechanism is as healthy and as wonderful and as finely tuned as it can be. And why shouldn't we tune that? Why shouldn't we take care of it? If we have to take care of it, because it's a mechanism, it's a machine. It's a biochemical machine. And if we don't take care of it, we will not have synchronization, we will not have the right timing, and people don't wake up at the right time. They're oversleep, undersleep, do this, do that. Timing is off. The oscillation processes are not synchronized, and resonance is not there. Most people don't have these three completely. That's why there's so many disorders and diseases. Worth meditating on, worth really thinking about this, and then taking steps to actually bring about synchronicity, bring about resonance, bring about biological coherence, etc. That's what our PTP program is for. Every Tuesday we have that with specific ideas, handouts, exercises, whatever it is, so that this can all happen. Today is more conceptual, but there's for dialogue discussion. It's the retreat. Generally, we don't talk about these things at this level, but that's why we have retreat, to talk about them at this level. Because most of humanity has stopped thinking, unfortunately. It lives like an animal. Okay, to continue from where we had left off, so we can see very clearly that there is this inseparable truth of information flow and energy flow. We can see that. We can see that synchronization, timing, and resonance are all part of biological coherence. We can see that also. Now let's take this and apply it to TEMDE. The TEMDE extends this insight by proposing that energy is not merely metabolic fuel, but the field level expression of system coherence, shaped most powerfully by desire. So let's understand this point. When we think of energy, generally we think about food that we're eating. Just give me, so what happened here? So let's see here. What this talks about is that energy is not merely a metabolic fuel. I mean, it is a metabolic fuel for metabolism. This is the sun's energy. But the field level expression of system coherence, that means that when our system is coherent, our biological system is really properly well tuned, very healthy. Our experience is so much better because we're not overweight, or we're not underweight, or we've got the right nutrients, and we've exercised properly and all that kind of stuff. Then we have what is called field level expression of the system that is coherent, of system coherence, and that is shaped powerfully by desires, by what we want in life. If Sachin actually wants a healthy life and powerful life and wonderful life, whatever kind of life I want, if I want that, then I can move in that direction. So field level expression of system coherence is shaped mostly or most powerfully by desires. So when desire is fragmented or compulsive, energy disperses chaotically. We know this, right? I know I should modify my diet, but I don't want to do so. I know I should be exercising, but I don't want to do so. There's too much contradiction. This is called contradictory desire. It's fragmented, or compulsion in one area only. Compulsion is performing the same activity again and again and again and again. It's to the point of harm, really. So when desire is fragmented or compulsive, energy disperses chaotically. The core energy, which is our inner wealth, it just disperses chaotically. But when desire is coherent and illuminated, that is so beautiful. If you're taking notes, write this down. We want desire to be coherent and desire to be illuminated. Energy consolidates the PCE, personal energy. So energy consolidates the personal core energy. So energy itself, which is all over the place, it gets consolidated into the personal core energy. And the integrated field, personal core energy, is the integrated field of vitality, awareness, and regulatory intelligence, sustaining self-mastery. Wow, that is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. That is exactly where we're headed in year number 4. Next year, we're going to open the door into self-mastery. This is where we're headed, into the integrated field of vitality, awareness, and regulatory intelligence that sustains self-mastery. When you get to self-mastery, how can you maintain it? By this, actually. This is year number 4 subject, actually, for the PTP program. That is, vitality is integrated. Awareness is at the highest levels. Regulatory intelligence. Intelligence is so active, it knows exactly where to put energy, where to pull energy, time, energy, everything. And then self-mastery is sustained. Right? So what was the point here? Field level expression of system coherence. We say that our life, we want to be coherent, we want to have balance in life, we want to have good life, all that kind of stuff. But the fact is that energy is not merely a metabolic fuel. Many people think of it that way. I've eaten food, I've got enough energy now. No. That is true, but that's not completely the truth. What is energy? Energy is the field level expression of system coherence. That's the way we are conceptualizing energy in the Angel Wing program. It's a field level expression of system coherence. Systems come together, but all 11 physiological systems are adhering together. And they are shaped most powerfully by desire. If I'm not motivated, if I don't have desires, if I don't have a higher goal, I cannot reach system coherence. It will never happen. And then when desire itself, and by the way, desire meaning desire, wanting, craving, longing, all of those words, you can have 1,000 words like that. There's so many. But we selected desire because that seems to be the most easy to remember and understand and encompasses everything. But when desire is coherent and illuminated, now you're going to ask the question, how does that happen? How is it that desire reaches coherence? Couple of ways to go about it. One way is to make the body as healthy as possible. Just stay on that point. Make the body healthy. Keep the home very organized. These are physical things you can do. How do you make the body healthy? By diet and by exercise and by medications if you're taking any. 3 things. Of course, the mind connection is there, but we'll get to that. Do this first. This can be immediately done. And then the second thing that can be done is cleanliness, environmental cleanliness. I talked about that before in our morning program today. And I talk about it quite often. It's a powerful notion, right? How do I get to desire, to coherent desire? Well, another thing to see, what's coming up in the next hour. What am I doing in the next hour? What am I feeling right now? Whatever I may be feeling right now, that's not me. I can change what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking and what I'm going to do by keeping that target of making desire coherent. So when I make desire coherent, that simply means that what I want to see happen in the next hour, all the actions I'm going to perform, I want them to hang together. They're connected together for my development, happiness, goodness. Now I may not want to do every single thing that I know I ought to do, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to make desire coherent. Desire is not coherent to begin with. And when Sachin makes desires coherent through multiple approaches, including spiritual practices and all, then my next hour becomes illuminated. Amazing. The next hour, so for example, 10:30 to 11:30, it will be illuminated. Illuminated meaning what? It'll be filled with energy, filled with goodness, filled with good thoughts. Everything that I have decided that I was going to do, I have done that. And it's an illumination from within. So the illumination of desire is not possible until there is the coherence of desire. I hope that makes sense. I think we know this, right? We know this very well. When desire is illuminated, the experience of that is just fantastic. It's like there's no obstruction in the flow of the energy within desire. And when there's no obstruction in that, energy consolidates into the personal core energy. This is how the PCE is developed. And then it's a total integration. So that's the integrated field. There's tremendous vitality. Amazing levels of vitality is just powerful, excellent energy. And with potentiality to do all kinds of things that we want to do. Life becomes, we become alive while we're living. We're living, but we may not be fully alive. That's vitality. Vitality means to be fully alive while living. And awareness is at the highest levels. We can see awareness in 12 dimensions, awareness of the TEMDE, awareness in everything, each and everything. We see it. It's 360-degree vision. That is awareness. That 360-degree vision is that extraordinary awareness. And regulatory intelligence. Regulatory intelligence. Intelligence we have, but intelligence works in such a way that it maintains beautifully coherent desire and illuminated energy. It maintains it. And that continuous maintenance is called sustained self-mastery. Okay, now it's already 10:34. Let's take a 15-minute break here. Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is Sachin here. This is now the second part of our retreat. We just did a brief meditation. Are there any comments or questions about anything that we have discussed thus far that has been presented? If there are some, please do let me know. Otherwise, I can continue from where I left off. We want to end it around 12 o'clock or so. So if there's anybody who wants to say anything, this is the time to do so. Okay, so let's continue from where we were here. Just as a quick recap, we looked at these 3 points, that is synchronization, timing, and resonance. Now, the TEMD extends this by proposing that energy is not merely a metabolic fuel, as we said, because many people think that's it. You're eating food and that's metabolic fuel. It's much more than that. It's a field-level expression of system coherence. These are big expressions, but all that simply means is if Sachin is in a coherent state, or when I'm there is the best quality of energy that is actually being expressed in the entire field of the body. The body and the mind are the field. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, is called Kshetragna Yoga. Exactly the same word is used, field. So this body is the field, the mind is the field, the senses are the field, all of that is the field, but the knower of the field, the Kshetragna, that is the Atman, that is the Chaitanyam, that is the spirit, essentially. Right? So field level coherence is a doorway into that higher consciousness that we talk about in our satsang programs. All right. So again, just as a quick recap, what we do not want desires to be fragmented. We do not want desires to be compulsive. So another way to put that, we want desires to be coherent, right? And the coherence of desire, again, how to do that? 1 hour at a time. See, part of the problem here for every human being, when you hear something like this, it sounds nice. Yeah, okay, Sachin said it, somebody said it, sounds very good, I need to have coherent desire. First of all, the concept may not be clear. So the concept has to be very clear. And then after that, a decision has to be made to bring my personal desires into coherence. By keeping my mind open, seeing things in broader ways, I have to see for myself what that means. And that's what the dialogue process and the reflective process in Angel Wing and retreats and everything, we have that so that each person can have the opportunity to be aware of what these ideas are for themselves. And that awareness, that understanding of it, brings about ultimately steps to be taken to bring about coherent desire. So desire doesn't become coherent just like that. It begins by taking actions. The examples that I've given, small things that we talked about it this morning in our satsang, doing your laundry, doing your dishes, keeping your house clean, putting things away where they need to be, keeping things tidy, keeping, like in my case, keeping computer files organized and stuff like that. All of that has to do with bringing eventually coherence to my action, and eventually beyond that, bringing coherence to my desires. Desires don't just become coherent because I just say I want my desires to be coherent. That's not how it works. It won't work that way also. The coherence of desires happens when we deliberately take steps that are the best, correct steps for oneself, even and especially when we don't want to. Because when Sachin says, I don't want to do this, but I know that I have to do it, that's called contradictory desire. What is that? That is energy that disperses chaotically. Because I don't do what I need to do, I'm not taking the right steps, I'm creating chaos within, creating fragment within. Because the other part of me that says, I want to do this, I should be doing this, and I'm just caught up within myself. I'm not doing anything, just caught up, stuck inside. And that's a problem many people have across aspects of life. And hence that is called fragmented desire, compulsive. And then compulsive is to start taking steps that are harmful compulsively. Compulsion means taking the same step again and again, same action again and again. That doesn't help. And then energy disperses. How does it disperse? Chaotically. Right? So this is what we don't want. We make a determination 1 hour at a time. That's all. That in the next hour, my energies, my thinking, my actions are the right ones. They're not going to be chaotic. They're not going to be compulsive. And they're not going to be fragmented. Another simple way to put that is, I'm going to live in coherent desires. See, I don't think most people use that expression in life. People say, I want coherence, I want balance. I think we need to be more specific to say, I want coherent desire. I'm going to make my desires coherent. There's a big difference. And when we do that, we are definitely in the path towards illumination. Then desires themselves will be illuminated. And illumination of desires where desire, the energy within desires is maintained. You're fulfilling them nicely without contradiction. Everything is in balance. And energy actually begins to consolidate. This is the most extraordinary thing to realize in life. Most people, this is my personal opinion, that's why we're so passionate about doing this. Once we recognize and realize that we can do this, that energy consolidation is possible once desire is illuminated. Desire is illuminated once desire is coherent. Desire is coherent once desire fragmentation, compulsion, and dispersion stops. How wonderful. How wonderful. Logically, I think in my mind at least, it makes a heck of a lot of sense. That's what it should be. Now, the only thing remaining is, if Sachin is talking, if I understand this, what I need to do now is to simply resonate with that truth. Not because others have said that is a truth. It's because it's my truth. Like I'm explaining this right now online and making a recording of it. I can feel it inside my mind and my body that this is real. This is true. It's an experience that this is true, and it's been true for a long time, and it will be true also. You see, so same thing is my request to all of you listening to this, either online or later on. Make this your truth, not because of Sachin. Sachin is not in the picture at all. This is just a transmission. We're transmitting ideas, but it has to be your own truth. And that's why it is called personal core energy consolidation. It's not impersonal, it's personal, because this is the person. Person means this person. And this is where consolidation has to happen. And that's not being selfish. That's not being inattentive. That's not being, dispersed. That's being self-responsible. Total 100% personal responsibility. That was our first Angel Wing retreat 4 years ago at Killen's Pond, and Dr. Chaitanya Kripalu had given that as a theme. She and I talked about what the theme should be, and she wanted that, and it was just beautiful. And that's, I've remembered that since then. I mean, I think that is the foundation. The only person I need to be responsible for, or that I have control over, I can be responsible for others, but I have to be responsible first to myself. And I can't do that. I can never reach self-mastery without personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is implemented through personal core energy consolidation. And consolidation is the inner wealth. The internal wealth of every human being is the PCE consolidation. Personal core energy consolidation, which happens through illuminated energy, which happens through coherent energy, that happens by stopping fragmentation, compulsion, and dispersion. That's the link. That's absolutely the link. Now you can expand on that. We can talk about it. We can do a lot of things with that. But that's the link. And that's amazing. I mean, that's the master key. This will open all the doors. If we actually understand this and decide, because we have to decide. Nobody can decide for Sachin. Nobody can decide for all of you. You've got to make your own decision to make life this way. To make our energies function this way. To make our desires function this way. We can masterfully make our desires coherent. Many people are just thinking, how can I control my emotions? I said, you cannot control your emotions. You've got to decide which emotions you want to have. Because the moment you try to control your emotions, they'll be controlling you with 100 more fold. You cannot control emotions. People are saying, I can control maybe a little bit here and there. Try to decide instead what emotions we want to have. And then with that decision, don't back off. Make the decision clear. I can say I want to be in a stable state of emotion. I want to be in a harmonious emotion. I want to be in a gratitude emotion. I want to be in a healthy emotion. I want to be in a grateful emotion. I want to be in a very, very energetic emotion. Decide for the next hour what emotion, and there's going to be fluctuations. But when you make a decision, then this whole link begins. Then desire aligns. Desire consolidates. Everything begins. Energy consolidates. But without decision, nothing is going to happen. Decision and then implementation by ignoring everything that obstructs the implementation. Yes. Then the biological and the psychological meet together. Systems biology, we've been talking about that. The systems, the biological systems are going to fall in line. They will fall in line. They will get better. They will improve. Homeostasis will increase. Hence that term we had before. Homeodynamics. Homeodynamics will increase. It will definitely get better. But nothing will happen until a clear-cut decision is made. And even after that, clear-cut implementation. Clear-cut. There's no falling back. There's no obfuscation. There's no twisting, turning. Mind is going in some other direction. Ignore it. Once a decision is clearly made with all of this background, you're convinced, then don't fall back. And then implement. In the implementation, there could be some resistance. There could be some difficulty. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be some resistance. You got to move through that. And then eventually, you get the fruit of it. The fruit of the implementation comes. You know what that fruit is? Self-mastery. That is a much advanced idea. But that is not going to happen until energy consolidates into personal core energy. Personal core energy is the solidification of the bank account, the internal bank account. Let's say you have $125,000 per year salary, and you say, I want to save $1 million. You got to cut out a lot of other stuff. You got to save money. There's a whole process to go through. You just can't be throwing money away. Just because you have a high income, there's going to be, anyway, 25-30% tax. Even if you have $125,000 income, somebody has that. You don't get $125,000 in hand. You may get $90,000 in hand or something like that. Who knows, right? And out of that, you have to pay your bills. So by the time you pay your bills, you may only have $50,000 left, or $30,000, or $50,000, whatever. And from that, you want to make $1 million. How are you going to do that? It requires consolidation. It requires stopping of all the chaos, stopping of all the unnecessary expenses. If the higher goal is to have $1 million in the bank account with $125,000 per year salary, and maybe there's some bonuses or some overtime, if that's the goal, you've got to cut out everything that doesn't belong in that goal. Now, that doesn't mean you don't live your life. You live your life very happily. But all extraneous things are cut out. That's the way it goes. I mean, you can't reach that goal otherwise. Keep spinning around. Oh, I save a little bit money. Do this, do that. Kuch goal hi nahi hai. In Hindi we say, there's no goal of any kind. Then how is this personal core energy going to be consolidated? Each human being, this is Sachin's humble opinion and request also, as an Angel Wing volunteer and presenter and, whatever you want to call it. And that is, every human being has the God-given right, and I would say responsibility, to consolidate personal core energy. Consolidate it. Don't disperse it unnecessarily. And utilize it, energy utilization, which we've talked about in PTP, without damaging the core. Not to damage any part of the core energetic quote bank account. And see how beautifully it is written here. PCE, personal core energy, is the integrated field of vitality. It's not just, I'm a vital person and maybe do some exercises here and get excited about something. It's not like that. It is an hour to hour, day to day integrated vitality. But it is integrated in what way? The field of experience, the field of the sense organs, the field of the body is coming to a level of integration. The integrated field of vitality. That's amazing. The language, I've deliberately put a little higher language here in my research, specifically for this reason, because we need the right language to refer to the right thing here. The problem is in human civilization, we have stopped using this kind of language. We are using so much negative language, so much harmful language, so much limited language that we're not getting the right track because the language is not not available. I mean, how many people have heard coherent desire, illuminated desire? Has anybody ever heard that? I'd like to know that somebody's talked about that. I would prostrate to that person. This is not about Sachin or his ego. This is just, about having the best language. Because without having the good quality language, how can we even think in that direction? Sometimes people say, why is there so much a high level language? Are we just living as a foolish person in this world? Live in the highest levels of human possibility. We need good language. Now we can understand it. We have to break it down. Think about it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't use good quality language or concepts and ideas that are available from hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years of development from great individuals throughout the world. So we need to take advantage of that. And see this notion, for example, the integrated field of vitality. Has anybody ever used that expression? Maybe they have. Do people in general community use that? No, nobody wants to talk about it. They want to talk about their entanglements, their problems, endless number of distortions. That's it. Is that what life is about? No. This is what Angel Wing is proposing to the whole world. That you meaning we start with ourselves. We can reach and we can develop and sustain an integrated field of vitality. Absolutely. Why not? Why can't it be done? Of course it can be done. Of course it can be done. But get the concepts clear. 100%, not 99%. This is Sachin's humble request to everybody. Get the concepts crystal clear. I made this recording. There's 2 recordings here. Get them super clear. They should be like stark clear. Because if there's even the slightest distortion, our mind will flip right back into its original chaos. There's no middle ground here. These concepts have to be absolutely clear. Otherwise, our own internal mechanism has so much chaos and conditioning and garbage inside there, it will bring all that stuff up and go right back into that. Very, very quickly. So the first step for everybody, including me, starting with me, is to make sure these concepts, these terms are written down. They're in bold here. I'll send you all the information. But it's not just about having information. It's about internalizing it. Speaking about this with some people, if possible. That, hey, I'm a part of the Angel Wing program. I just want to review some concepts. Would you mind listening to so I can review it? Talk to a couple of people. The more we share it, the more it will grow. All of you know, Sachin has been talking about this for the last many years. The more I read this, research it, talk about it, who does it help? It helps me. It continuously helps me. Does it help others? Probably. But that's up to them, how far to take it. You see, so that's the way this goes. We have an extraordinary possibility here to develop and to sustain the integrated field of vitality. Because that's what personal core energy actually is. Personal core energy is not simply something that is just sitting, that is inaccessible. We spent, in fact, the whole second year, which is this year, on the 5 E's. Energy activation, energy transmutation, energy revitalization, all that stuff. All those recordings are available. But what's the goal of that? This is the goal. The integrated field of vitality, which means that there is availability to use extraordinary potencies to do amazing things in life, to enjoy life. But do it in such a way that does not fragment desire, does not put us in compulsion and obsession, and does not disperse energy chaotically. That is the absolute base. 50% and 50%. 50% of this is stopping fragmentation, compulsion and obsession, and energy dispersion chaotically. That's 50%. The other 50% is to set the destination for coherence, illumination, and consolidation. There you go. That's the formula. The 50 plus 50 there is equal to 100% success. Guaranteed. This is a hypothesis. Sachin would say, from my humble opinion, we would say this would be successful. But do it and see. We want to know what the obstacles are. Are there going to be some obstacles? Obviously. Obviously there are obstacles. So what? They are opportunities. Don't call them obstacles. They're opportunities for vitality, for regulatory intelligence to kick in, and for increased awareness. Absolutely amazing. Okay, let's look at the next paragraph. So crucially, systems biology opens legitimate conceptual space for subtle energetic regulation. Let's go into this carefully. Systems biology is a field in biology, in professional biology. It's an amazing field. And what does it do? It opens legitimate conceptual space. Look, this has got to open inside of us. The concepts have to open. That's what I was just mentioning a minute ago. But when researchers are opening conceptual space, their mind is expanding. They can do better quality research, and then they can present that to the world. Humanity improves. Humanity is healthier. Humanity grows that way. So systems biology opens legitimate conceptual space for what? What does it open the space for? For subtle energetic regulation. Look at those 3 words. Do we have energy? Yes. But subtle energy, sukshma in Sanskrit, which is higher ordered organizational influences not reducible to single biochemical pathways. That's at least some definition of that. Does our heart require energy? Yes. Does our brain require energy? Yes. Do our muscles require energy? Yes. But there are biological pathways, even singular biological pathways. They're all connected together. We can analyze one piece at a time. But the subtle energy regulation, which is higher ordered organizational influence, meaning that our brain is more active, more coherent all the way around with all of these ideas. What is it that happens? Our biological system functions at a new level, and that is called subtle energetic regulation. And I would love to have researchers and doctors and others talk more about this, because they need to understand this also. So in terms of research, in terms of in terms of systems biology, they have conceptually tried to understand subtle energetic regulation, which is higher order organizational influences, not reducible to single biological pathways, without departing from empirical rigor. Yes, they're doing the scientific methodology, empirical rigor, to show that there's a scientific, observable, measurable, replicable basis for this notion of higher ordered organizational influences on the physical body. Absolutely. But they're doing this is about systems biology now. They're doing it without sacrificing or without diminishing the empirical rigor. Empirical rigor means the scientific method, observation, hypotheses, theories, replicability, good measurements, qualitative, quantitative studies. All that stuff is called empirical rigor. So by acknowledging that coordination and coherence govern system health, systems biology provides a scientific scaffold upon which the TEMD can articulate energetic models of consciousness without invoking metaphysical dualism. This is one of the most extraordinary and absolutely correct statement. Exactly what was in my mind. I was able to find the right language for it. This is exactly what the TEMD is about. I'm going to go through that very carefully. It's good that it's being recorded. It'll be useful for hundreds of years. There are a couple of people online, but we don't realize where this will go. It will go where it is supposed to go. You'll see that. As long as we go where we're supposed to go. Now let's look at this. This is so exciting. By acknowledging that coordination and coherence govern system health. This is correct. I don't think anybody can disagree with that. We need coordination. We need coherence. Obviously. Without that, we cannot do anything. So this is how systems health is governed. So systems biology provides a scientific scaffold. It's like the scaffold is what? It is the backdrop, essentially, upon which the TEMDE can articulate the model that we have, the angel wing model of the TEMDE, can articulate energetic models of consciousness. We can think about consciousness in terms of energy. We can think about our life in terms of energy, think about reality in terms of energy, without necessarily invoking metaphysical dualism. Without, metaphysics and God and spirituality, those things are there, but we can stay focused on energetic models. And so in this way, the TEMDE does not oppose systems biology, but operationalizes it at the level of lived experience. That's the whole point. We're living our experience. We can operationalize. We can think about those concepts and ideas in biological sciences in terms of systemic biological sciences and in terms of our lived experience. What does that translate? It translating network dynamics into a functional model. Network dynamics meaning the network of the system that we're connected with. This is called network dynamics, into a functional model of how thoughts, emotions, memories, desires, and energy continuously co-arise. See, they arise together. It's not that desire arises without memory or memory arises without thought. They all five of them, they function together. They continuously co-arise. They continuously co-regulate. They continuously self-regulate. And they determine the quality of human vitality and awareness. I'm going to stop with that here because I think that's a lot of ideas all at one time. But I don't think there's a need to go too much further into this right now. I think what is more important is to contemplate on these ideas. So I'm going to stop here. But with that, my only closing commentary, I'll just take 2 minutes with that, and then we'll stop here. And that is that this is a matter of contemplation. First of all, listening to this two recordings that are made here several times, taking notes. I'm going to make some supplementary videos through Notebook LM. That'll be very helpful for us. But it's a matter of simply for those individuals who want to reach self-mastery, make this your own. There's no other way to do this. Understand the concepts, go into them, make them your own, and implement them. Don't fall back. That is my humble request for myself, and then for everybody else. So we'll stop with that, and we'll pick it up next time with Angel Wing. Thank you.